What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll take a peek over here at the Bitcoin price chart as prices stay still here throughout the week, with the bigger moves really coming over there in the altcoin market, as we see that the altcoin market has backtested that 200-day moving average, which it was able to break out of and has been stuck underneath for over a year. But now on the upper side of it, yesterday's big move in after-hours trading of the stock market, we saw stocks and crypto take a swift move to the downside, but still being able to maintain there overnight. Now, if you've been catching markets in the morning, we've been discussing that really it's been a lot of the same thing happening in here. And like 2 weeks ago, what we saw was a lot of price action come there on Friday night into Saturday. Same was the story for this week, Friday into Saturday. And then we really just kind of went flat all week last week. It's been the same story this week. We still haven't broken any type of range boundaries over here for Bitcoin, really just teasing along as we did in the previous week. There aren't really any big catalysts going on out there. There aren't really any like major overhanging news narratives. One of the big overhanging news narratives has been like what's going on with Genesis and Digital Currency Group, right? With Genesis going bankrupt. Zero impact on the market. Prices went up into that news, no problem. But as for like narratives going on in crypto right now, whether positive or negative, there's really just nothing out there at this point. It's kind of like the calm before the storm. We know next week is Fed week. They're going to do an interest rate hike, or are they? And this week is really just giving off a lot of the same feelings of what we had last week, in which we just ran sideways all week till like last 2 weeks, Friday and Saturday, then things got moving. So we'll see if that's the case again this week, but otherwise that is what it's been so far. As for Bitcoin, as for the altcoin market, the last 2 weeks, really just trending. You can see the move that we had last night just takes us really still within the trend. For me, trend lines are not the end all be all, but they help provide a visualization of things when they start to really stall out. As for now, still within trend. And a lot of times this is what a sign of strength looks like before a bigger move does come. Should we get some bigger breakdown here and we start taking out these lows, then it starts being like, all right, trend has now changed at this point. Then, rolls over. But I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time just repeating myself on what's going on in the market. So I'll keep the video relatively brief. If you've caught any of the videos, the reality of it all is just that we're in a zone where it's going to be just determined whether or not Bitcoin is in some long-formed ABC to emerge in here that's going to last for some time, as typical reversals do. Right now, we're within a region where that could begin at, but a move up higher would be completely acceptable as well. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm just kind of being careful with my words, but it's just, we have to understand where we've been to in here. And now we've had our breakouts, and in most reversal cases, this is what we end up getting. But there's absolutely an inconsistency on the levels at which this could all occur from. So until something meaningful happens to say, hey, we've gotten way too far out of there, that no longer seems to be what's going to be going on in here. It's still just kind of a sitting back and waiting, well, which one is it going to be? We noticed all of these way ahead of time, right? We've been watching this for months at this point now. We got precisely what we were looking for. But now we just reached that phase of the market is now having to tell us, is this the next phase? Because it usually is that we're going to ABC our way in here. And like we've looked at the inverse price chart of Bitcoin from the peak, we've looked at the XRP price chart. You can even look at what the bottom of Bitcoin looked like back in 2018, and that it was the same thing, right? So if you were to say, where are we right now if we were doing the exact same thing, which it is slightly off, I mean, it puts you somewhere like right in there, right? Still has another push up to get a little bit higher to get up in there. But then what did Bitcoin do, right? It A, B, C'd right back down on in here. And notice this was really long. It's just like what we were talking about with XRP, that it was really long. It's the same story and how long these things can take to pull back down in here. So that's the context of this setup, is something along those lines. But we're just marching up. So not a whole lot to say here during the week when we kind of see the same thing. We know what the context of the bigger picture is, right? This is the course of the last 8 months. The context of the 8 month picture is what is there a stopping point coming in here pretty soon as we get to the top of the range? And then if we zoom in on a smaller level and say, okay, well, what's been happening in the last month, in the month of January, as we've been rising. And over the last 2 weeks, it's been Fridays and Saturdays where we have these big moves up that happen, and notorious for Tuesday and Wednesdays that we actually end up having these falls that happen in here. But the ranges continue all week. So no matter how much we talked about the market during the week, last week, it didn't matter. We stayed range bound. This week, we're having the same thing. We're still just range bound. The interesting thing for next week will be if we get our push to the top of the range and then we start to have narratives start. So we have like a silent news week this week. It is just ridiculously quiet out there in macro markets and in crypto markets. The context is we're just marching our way upward, but we're reaching very close to the top of the range. And this is where there's a lot more to talk about and a lot more to watch what happens with the market. Watching volume profiles to see if we see high volume come in regards to extreme euphoria of buying. It does some really big positive news story come in right here, right? Because what happens, and you got a really good example of it, you don't ever get positive news at the bottom. The bottom is never positive. Everybody thinks like I'm going to read the fundamental news and I'm going to be able to buy bottoms and sell tops based on fundamental news. No, that's how you get everything wrong. If you're not looking at the picture when it's the absolute worst and saying, you know what, this is really bad. This is super bad. I think I should buy it. Right? FTX collapsing. The SEC suing Ripple. Every exchange delisting XRP in the United States, and Grayscale selling off their entire XRP trust. 78 cents, 66 cents, 17 cents. You know what? I think it's okay that XRP is getting delisted off of every exchange and the XRP trust with Grayscale is getting liquidated, and that the SEC is screaming that XRP is a security. You know what? I'm going to buy it. Fundamental news. It's just not the way things work. It's always when it's the darkest that you've reached selling exhaustion. And so we've seen a lot of buying. I don't think we have seen exhaustion emerge just yet. But of course, one thing to watch out for will be if we reach to the top of the range, we see high volume and we see high sell volume hidden in there, which we'll look at on smaller time frames to try to find it and see if we can see volume really showing up in there. But then, the thing to always watch out for is there a really good news narrative to come with it? Because we know news narratives are typically timed at reversals or that reaches exhaustion where the maximum amount of sellers are going to sell. Like nobody, if you didn't sell into the FTX collapse, I don't know what's going to get you to sell. You've been through Luna, you've been through the contagion, you've been through Three Arrows Capital, you've been through Digital Currency Group having branches of its business model going bankrupt, been the collapse of BlockFi and Celsius. If FTX collapsing doesn't get you to do it, well, that had to be the last of them. The last of the sellers sold. So we'll keep eyes out for news. And maybe that's it, right? Maybe that's it, right? What if the Fed says they're going to pause on rate hikes this cycle, or pause on rate hikes for this meeting at least, right? That would be your Fed pivot narrative, right? Not quite pivot, but a stopping of rate hikes. That would be a big move, right? And we've looked at all the yields. Every time the yields have done exactly what they're doing right now, the Treasury yields, that has been the moment in which the Fed paused. Still a tame week out there, guys, in regards to crypto at least, with ranging just like we had last week. And you know what I'm going to do this week on Friday night if we end up having something happen? I think I'm going to come in. I'm going to come on here. I'm not going to miss it. I'm tired of coming on here every day throughout the week and us just be range bound throughout the whole week, and then all the action happen on the weekend. So, but I am going to actually be busy on the actual weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Because with my drumming, I do have a show that I am playing this weekend. And speaking of that, XRP Comedy and Art put out something pretty cool. It surprised me a couple of days ago over there on Twitter. Joel Katz, David Schwartz, Brad Garlinghouse, and me all playing in our band with the final countdown looming there for XRP. As James Filan had posted over there on Twitter, the scheduling update for the Ripple versus SEC or SEC versus Ripple lawsuit is that there is nothing on the schedule. Everything is briefed. All we have to do now is wait. So kind of reminds me of what we're doing with the markets this week as we're range bound all week is we just wait. But I didn't put out a video yesterday. I thought I'd catch up with you guys today. I know not everybody likes to watch live streams, but I have been doing those each day this week. I know that's not for everybody. And a lot of the typical routine is just watching the videos, and I appreciate you watching. So wanted to get something out, even though the messaging is still pretty much the same of what's happening there in the market. So we'll check in on it again tomorrow. We'll see if any developments do happen in price action. Otherwise, it's still just ranging, guys. But till then, I'll catch you guys in the next one. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.